Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel, Jashanac here, to talk about some friggin' books. But first, my new tattoo. I figure I will get some questions about it if you don't follow me on social media. So I will answer those questions. So this is not complete. You'll be able to see in a second. I'll show you that there's a dragon on my shoulder. The dragon wings need to be shaded in, and the dragon tail needs to be finalized and shaded in. And then there is going to be watercolor all throughout all of it, kind of going around the dragon and up over my shoulder, kind of behind the words, and then behind / through the flower outlines here. So this tattoo I have wanted to get for a hot second. Initially, I was going to get something much smaller. I was just going to get the dragon and the words, and that was about it, on my shoulder blade. And over time, I just realized I kind of want a half sleeve. I kind of want a half sleeve, a colorful half sleeve tattoo. And the initial inspiration, I'll explain it all fully, but the initial inspiration for the dragon and the text has to do with my romantic life and things I've been through in my personal life, in my romantic life. Kind of a reminder to myself, and so the roses play into that. Kind of on the flip side, it's kind of a little expression of my desire to be a strong person who knows what I want and demands to be respected. Not even demands, commands respect, and being treated well, knowing my worth, and knowing that nobody can, break me, I guess. Knowing that I'll be fine no matter what. I've learned that about myself. But also that I don't want to be completely resentful or bitter or disillusioned with love. I still am a hopeless romantic at heart. I still love love. So it's kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum for me is what this represents. Being really tough and, what some might call self-centered or selfish, but also still being loving and compassionate and having hope for great love in whatever way it comes to me, right? So the dragon, I will flip around here. I just got it 3 days ago, or 4 days ago. Here you can see the wings. It's just like the skeleton of the wings. That needs to be shaded in. And then the tail needs to be shaded in. That's just all going to be gray, black, whatever. The dragon itself is not going to be colorful. And then this right here, this text says, Ixan ses Aldrizes, which is High Valyrian, made up language from Game of Thrones, for I am the dragon. And the reason for that quote specifically, those words specifically, is there's a multitude of reasons, basically. So one of my favorite books is And I Darken. It's been a while since I read that series by Kirsten White, but I thoroughly love that series, and I need to do a reread of it soon. Maybe next year I'll do that. But and the main character, Lada, is an unlikable person, okay? I don't aim to be like Lada, but she's a truly unique, I would say, truly unique young adult female protagonist in the fact that she is genuinely ruthless. No hesitation, ruthless. But anyway, so I just really enjoy her as a character. But the end of the first book, the final line of the first book is, I am no longer the dragon's daughter, I am the dragon. And I just love, that's such a fucking badass first line. And I love the personal agency that she is kind of coming into with that. She's like, I'm not defined by being this man's daughter. I'm myself. I'm a badass in my own right. I am powerful in my own right. And I don't need him. I don't need to be attached to him. I'm the goddamn dragon, I love that. And then I saw a quote one time, and I can't remember the exact verbiage of it, and it's something to the effect of, do not fashion me into a maiden who needs saving from the dragon. I am the dragon, and I will eat you alive, or I will burn you alive, something like that. And oh, love that energy. I'm just always trying to channel that energy, you know? And then Beyonce has a lyric that says, I am the dragon breathing fire, which, you know, is Beyonce. She's a badass. And then Daenerys Targaryen is one of my favorite Game of Thrones characters. We're not discussing the final season. It's whatever. But throughout the series overall, she's one of my favorite characters. And obviously, I don't think she ever says it in the show. I don't believe she says, I am the dragon. She says, I am the dragon's daughter. And she says, you know, he was not a dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon. She is the last dragon. I don't think she ever actually says, I am the dragon. I'm pretty, maybe in season 7. No, I don't think she does. But at any rate, she is the dragon, the last dragon, whatever. So that's kind of what inspired it to be in High Valyrian. And obviously dragons are a big thing for Valyria, you know. So yeah, that's why I chose that. And I mean, obviously it's a made-up language, so I did my best with figuring out how you would say this. There are different examples of it, or different translations of it that I've seen, because it depends on which, if it's High Valyrian, or there's another one that starts with a P, some other like Valyrian dialect that it did show it being different. But the initial one that I found that said it was High Valyrian said Ixanse Zeldrizes. So I know Zeldrizes is dragon, I think, in every dialect, but the I am the part, you know, it's a made-up language anyways. But, so yeah, that's that. And that's what I initially was going to get on my just shoulder blade, was just the dragon and the text. But then like I said, I wanted to add something kind of expressing the fact that I'm not totally disillusioned with love despite the things I've been through, and that I'm still a hopeless romantic. So hence the roses, because roses are a symbol of love, and they're just so pretty. Like, I didn't want it to be like a totally like, oh, dragons, like badass. I wanted it to be pretty too, and that is why the color, I just love colorful shit. Like, I want it to look like Lisa Frank threw up on my fucking arm. And I'll put a picture, an image of what I had sent the tattoo artist of like my inspiration, or like images that I was like, ooh yeah, this kind of vibe of like the watercolor. So I'll pop that in somewhere here now. But yeah, it probably won't be a couple months. That's why I wanted to explain it before getting it fully done, because I figured I would get some questions about it, because you'll be able to see it when I'm recording, especially for today, because I don't want to put clothing on it. So I've been wearing these types of shirts for the last few days so that it can just do its thing and hopefully heal very well. I will say it's been 11 years since my last tattoo, and that was on my foot, the top of my foot, and it took all of like a minute to 2 minutes tops for them to do that. It didn't hurt. Like, it was over before I even knew it. I was like, oh shit, we're done. And then I also have one on my, like the middle of my back, kind of, that I got when I was 21, so that was like 14 years ago. And that one also is just script with like a feather pen. It's not very big, and it hurt a little bit going across my spine, but it was very short-lived. That one took maybe 45 minutes to do, and it's, you know, been so long. So I was like, the pain. I'm not sure how this is gonna feel. This took 3 hours, and this shit hurt. It hurt so bad. I was like, I can do it. I wasn't making any noise and I wasn't crying, but I was clenching my fucking teeth, and my whole body, aside from my arm, that was just like hanging limp. But like my legs, I just was tense. Like clenching my legs together, pressing them together to just be like, oh my God, flexing my feet. Like, I was sweating, and my body was so fucking fatigued. I went home that night, and I'm usually up until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. That's when I'm like going to bed. At like 7 p.m., I wanted to go to sleep. I was spent. So, yay. Very excited. This was like my 35th birthday present to myself, was to finally get this, because also it was expensive. So yeah, I'm very happy with it though. Even just now, like with it unfinished, I still love how it looks. But oh my God, I cannot wait to get the color. Oh, it's gonna be so fun. Ah, so excited. So okay, let's do the fucking wrap up, shall we? I have 4 books to talk about today, and one of them is a DNF, though. Sad times at Ridgemont High. So this one I completed in the end of August, and that is Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. And I have not seen very many people talk about it. Monet actually just read it also, Life as Monet. She just read it. And prior to her, the only person I had seen talk about it really was Bethany at Beautifully Bookish Bethany. And she quite enjoyed it. And I was like, you know, that does sound pretty fucking cool. So this is adult, kind of dystopian fantasy. The premise is there were 5 chosen ones who were selected and trained to defeat the Dark One, this mysterious being who showed up on Earth and started wreaking havoc and just slaughtering people. And magic was a thing, and these chosen ones had some affinity for magic. They were all teenagers at the time, and they defeated the Dark One. And so we pick up 10 years later. It's the 10th anniversary. There's a whole memorial thing that they all come back together for. And turns out there may be some more evil lurking, surfacing that needs to be defeated again. The past 10 years have not been kind to all of these characters. They obviously have some pretty deep trauma with what they went through and the shit they saw. A couple of them were at one point when they were teens and they were fighting the Dark One. A couple of them were kidnapped and held hostage and tortured by the Dark One. So they're dealing with that. We have characters dealing with PTSD, addiction, substance abuse in general, but specifically like hard drug addiction. So I really enjoyed these characters. I didn't feel I wasn't like, oh my God, these are my children. These are my babies. I love them. Like, I just want to hang out with them. It wasn't like that, but I liked them. I enjoyed the character development that we saw. I liked getting to know them. This is a very cool world. I mean, it's our world, and so there's that, but there's some really, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give any spoilers for you, but I'll just say that it felt like a really interesting dystopian world. And like I said, there is some magic happening, and I will admit being a little confused sometimes with how this magic was working or why it was working the way that it was. There's like a magical object at one point that does something that I'm like, why? Why is it doing that? I don't understand necessarily. Content warnings in this for what? For substance abuse, for sure, drug abuse, addiction, suicide, PTSD stuff, violence, trauma from violence. I don't know how you would, I guess, categorize that, but what else? Torture. It's not super in-depth described, but I mean, it is described. A little bit of body horror, I think. I don't know, I'm not super familiar with like body horror, but there's something that happens and it's talked about. It's like one incident at first that is talked about and referenced over and over again, and that incident was like, oh God. It made me like, I don't like thinking about that. Fuck. Oh my God. Like, made me just like want to shake my hands out and like, So, I feel like that's body horror, right? It's something happening to someone's body with this object, and it's like, oh God, it just made me squeamish a little bit. So watch out for that, for sure. But yeah, with the magic stuff, I can't say if it was like not fully fleshed out or if it was just a failure on my part to really grasp it, or if I was like trying too hard to understand it and I should have just like went with it more. I don't know. But there were a few times where I was like, why does it do that though? There's no explanation for why this magical thing is doing this thing. Without going into the plot, because again, I don't want to spoil anything, I will just say that there were a couple of twists and turns and reveals where I was like, oh shit, okay. Partway through, there's something that happens that completely shifts the tone of the story, or the world is much different than you think it is. I'll just say that. So yeah, this one was as far as was it a good time, I would say yes. It's not one that I feel like screaming from the rooftops about, but I quite enjoyed it. And by the ending, I just was like, it has sat with me a little bit. Like, I keep thinking about this book, but not in a, oh my God, I loved it so much, I can't wait to talk about it. But just like, man, yeah, that was cool. That was like a cool world, a cool premise. What she did with it was so interesting. And I definitely do want to read the next book. When is that coming out? No idea. I don't even think it has a title currently. So we shall see. Maybe next year. I don't know. So I ended up giving this 3.75 Pushinicorns. A quite enjoyable time. I would recommend. Next, I read a book that has been on my shelves for quite some time and has one of the most beautiful covers ever. Oh my God, I love it so much. The Spy by Paulo Coelho. I just, look, it's like kind of shimmery a little bit, like pearlescent. But the colors, I just love. Oh my God, and the image is so cool. This is historical fiction. I don't know if it counts as a novella or not. I don't know, it's short at any rate. But about Mata Hari, who was a dancer and a courtesan in France in the early 1900s. And she was executed in France because of allegations of espionage against her. So for characters, I mean, it's essentially just Mata Hari. That's who we're following. It's basically a letter she has written to her lawyer, and then towards the end, we get another part that is her lawyer, like, writing back to her, and that's how we get all of this information. She was a very interesting woman. I had never heard of her, but yeah, she was very interesting, I thought. Her life and everything was wild. But while it was interesting, because it's so short, it just felt like kind of a blurb about her. It was kind of like an overview of her life story. So yeah, was it a good time? I mean, sure, for the most part, like, yeah, it was cool. I'm not going to keep it because I'm never going to reread this, which makes me sad because it's so pretty. I just couldn't really get that invested because it was such a gloss over of her life. But it was fine, you know? And it was super short, so, you know, it didn't take much time out of my life. I ended up giving this one 3 Pushinicorns. A perfectly fine time. And then a reread of a favorite for me, The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. Oh, I missed Shazi so much. I missed her. I love her. This is young adult fantasy. It's a retelling, reimagining of 1001 Nights. We have a boy king who is marrying a new bride every day and then murdering them at dawn. And then marrying another one by the evening, murdering her at dawn. And he's been doing this for a couple of months, and the people of the city are displeased, obviously. And our main character's best friend is one of the girls selected to be his new bride, and she is murdered. So our main character, Shazi, is like, fuck this, I volunteer as tribute, and I'm gonna go get in there, and I'm gonna murder him. So that's her plan. And her plan is to try to stay alive as long as she can, to learn some weaknesses, and to learn how she could best murder him and get revenge. So she starts telling him stories at night to see if that can stave off the inevitable dawn murder, and things go from there. And she quickly learns that there might be more to the monster than she originally thought. So yeah, I already said it. Characters, I mean, I just love Shazi. Oh my God, she is just so fun. So fun. She's a little firecracker. She's a little bit of a brat sometimes. And the one side character, Despina, tells her that. She calls her Brat Khalifa. Because she's like, you're just so spoiled and such a brat. But she's, yes, such a firecracker, very intelligent. She can hold her own, very sassy. And I love the side characters here as well. Like I mentioned, Despina, Jalal, he is great as well. And I even like Khalid, the boy king, Caliph. I quite enjoy what's going on with him. So it's like really still a mystery to me that I love this duology so much. Because then I went on to read The Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh. Because I loved this so much, I pre-ordered that book when it came out, and then I did not enjoy it. Did I DNF it? I don't remember if I DNF'd it. I think I might have. I didn't like the character. I didn't like the plot. I was like, And then I didn't continue that series. And then I read The Beautiful, and then I did read the second book, The Damned, but I didn't love it, and I'm not going to continue with that series. I didn't love it like I love this. I think it's really just primarily the characters that I really love here. So there's definitely some, I don't want to call it insta love, because it's not genuinely insta love, but it's like very quick progression love. They're teenagers, so I kind of forgive it for that. But also the way that Renee Ahdieh writes the angst and the passion that they feel for each other, just, oh my God. I don't care if it makes no sense. Don't give a shit. I love it. It's fun. I do think that is a valid complaint. I've seen people say that though, like, why would she fall for him so quickly knowing he's a literal murderer, you know? And it's hinted pretty early that there might be reasons for it, but even so, it's very valid to still feel like that's not justified. I don't know. It's justified for me. It's a fictional world. It's not real life. You know, I can forgive it for the angst and the passionate, like, yeah, you're my moon and my stars, like, type of thing. I love it. I think the like insta love like doesn't bother me as much, because I read it in this as more of like soulmates, like deeply bonded soulmate love, versus just like, oh my God, he's cute, I love him, you know? So yeah, this was very much a good time. It was not 5 stars this time around. The first time I read it, I gave it 5 stars. And I think maybe just because I've read it before, I didn't feel quite as much as I felt the first time I read it. The first time I read it, I was just like, oh my God, I need like them to be together, and I just love them, and oh my God, I can't, I was just so fucking invested in this romance, just, like, so invested. I wasn't as invested this time. You know, my reading tastes maybe have changed or grown or just been altered in certain ways, so I didn't feel myself feeling that, like, yes, I love it. But I just really enjoyed it. I really love Shazi, and I do like the romance. So I gave it 4.5 Pushinicorns on this go around. Still very high. And then the DNF. Listen, I apologize to everyone who's going to be so annoyed with me, aghast, shocked. I know, like, Angela, for sure. I'm really sorry, Angela. Several other people as well. Neeks, I think, has read this and loved it. I tried. I read 100 pages of The Shadowed Sun, book 2 of the Dream Blood duology by N.K. Jemisim. I read The Killing Moon a few months back, and I was like, okay, I liked it. It's like I didn't like it and I didn't dislike it. It was just kind of there. There were elements of it that I enjoyed, elements I really didn't enjoy. It took me some time to read through it. I didn't have a super fun time reading it, but, you know, I was intrigued, and I was like, all right. And I've heard people say that, like, in the duology, even if they like the first book, they prefer the second book. I was like, all right, cool. And I owned it, and I read 100 pages, all right? So I gave it a good effort. That's like how many chapters I read? The first 10 chapters. And I was not hating it. Again, I was not, like, disliking it. But I don't know if I'm just too dumb for N.K. Jemisim. Her writing style, it's obviously well written and nuanced with the world building, the character development, all of that. It's very interesting. This magic is really cool, and it is like a really cool premise for the magic system. Everything with the dreaming and the dream blood and this and that and all of that. But it's not fun for me to read in the slightest. And I know not everything has to be fun, but, like, it's just not an enjoyable reading experience for me. Not everything has to be fun to read, but I still want to like enjoy reading it, right? And I'm just not enjoying. I'm feeling the same way I felt with the first one, and I'm not invested enough where, okay, maybe there's like a lot going on and it's really heady or whatever, but man, these characters are so cool and interesting, or man, this plot, like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens. I didn't feel that way at all. Don't really care about the characters, don't really care about what is happening in the plot. Like, I care kind of, but also not really. Her writing style, for me, feels tedious. It just feels tedious. I still want to try the Broken Kingdoms or Thousand Kingdoms, or I have the first 2 books of that. The 100,000 Kingdoms, that whole thing. I still want to try that because I have heard that's like a good place to start with her, so maybe I should have done that. I don't know. And I do at some point still want to try to reread the 5th season, but I don't know, man, because I remember in the 5th season feeling this way about her writing style as well, where it just feels tedious to me. I'm not saying it's bad. I totally understand why people love her books and why people love her writing style. I just personally don't love it. So, yeah, there's that. Please don't fight me in the streets. And there we are. The 3 books I read recently and the one I DNF'd. Like and comment if you feel so inclined. Let me know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were, or if you plan on reading any of these, if I've made you more intrigued to read any of them. And if you don't have anything to say, you can always just leave a cute little emoji if you just want to say hello. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.